Paul Atkins has been confirmed as the SEC new chair. And as we know, if you've been following the channel for quite some time, Paul is pro crypto. So, yesterday, of course, it's midnight here in North America now. Yesterday was already, an exciting day for the crypto markets. For some people, of course, the ones that were accumulating the bloodbath. But the tariffs being paused, and Donald Trump coming out himself stating that he is working and wanting to work with China to kind of come with some sort of a resolution has really obviously had a positive impact on the crypto market. But yeah, we're going to talk about a lot of things. Welcome back to the Crypto ZX channel, to the XRP holders. I appreciate you guys as always for sticking around and showing so much love to your boy. Your support means the world, and let's get right into it. So if you're looking across the board going into Thursday morning, so far that momentum is carrying on. You're looking across the board, you're still seeing a lot of coins up. XRP up 10.8%, has seen a little bit of a minor pullback, over the course of the last few hours, but it's remaining at $2 as of recording this update, and it's also up 4.1% in Bitcoin comparative. So that is nice to see. Apologies on that. A valuation at $116.6 billion and the 24-hour trading volume at $8.7 billion. But before we get into any further, as always, just a quick disclaimer: anything on this channel is not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence and research when you are investing in crypto. So, Bitwise CIO Matt Hogan expects that weekend dollar. So, if the dollar is weakening, and it will have a good impact for Bitcoin. Long term, he predicts a shift from a single reserve currency to more fractured, system where Bitcoin plays a bigger role. He maintains his $200,000 a year and Bitcoin prediction. So, according to Matt Hogan, at the end of the year, he expects your Bitcoin price to reach $200,000. And I know, this might be a little bit of a stretch, but, I've been in this space for quite some time. It literally takes crypto 1-2 months at most, have a euphoric type of run in such a short span of time. Look what happened in Q4 of last year. So who knows? Again, time is going to be telling, but we'll see what happens. The fact that, we did see this happening, I think this is a right move to the right direction. Tariffs being paused, yes, it's not the end. Obviously, there's no sort of resolution. I'm, looking for some sort of a resolution coming. If you hear some sort of other things, that obviously are in relation to tariffs, that could cause a hiccup on the markets. I'm still mentally prepared for that. But hopefully, if nothing happens, the next, 3 months, I'm expecting, the market to kind of stabilize itself, unless, of course, there's some external factor that is out of our control. Obviously, those are things, that we need to always be aware of. But moving forward, this has kind of gone, a lot on, crypto Twitter. Again, guys, this is not, and I repeat, this is not confirmed by any means. It literally says Trump asked Supreme Court to let go of Jerome Powell. Again, this is not confirmed by any means. Of course, a rate cut, Trump has been asking for rate cuts, but Jerome Powell is just not just going to come and, cut the rates. We need to understand, who Jerome Powell is. And what kind of role it has. It doesn't really work based off of what the president is saying. When it comes to the Federal Reserve, decisions, they factor in a lot of things. So again, as you're going to see more and more people talking about this. You always want to be questioning what you're reading online, and this right now is definitely not something that has been confirmed. But moving forward, look at this, guys. Now the fact that you did see Paul Atkins being confirmed as a new SEC chairman. Look at this. Now onto the XRP ETFs. Now remember, we had seen prior to all of this, Paul Atkins officially being announced as the chair, we have been seeing SEC not only drop in all the crypto cases, obviously bringing clarity towards the crypto industry, and on top of that, you're seeing a lot of these filings from these asset managers, these institutions that are filing for XRP or different assets, ETFs. Guess what? We've been noticing, we are noticing a lot of them being acknowledged. So now that we're seeing a person that is pro crypto, that is part of the chairman of the SEC, are we going to see the next phase of just complete approvals? Because that could be the pivotal moment. Let me tell you guys that honestly could bring in a lot of excitement. And on top of that, if we do see a rate cut, the next few months could look exciting. But again, we cannot have any hiccups regarding the trade war. We just can't. We cannot do that, because if you do see that, I think that has a negative impact on the market once again. But so far, so good. We got to take it one step at a time. We got to see what's right in front of us, and this is how the road looks like. I know it happened super fast, but these trade wars, these tariffs conversations, again, are in no one's control. And of course, that was to be expected. But moving forward, let's take a look at this. Raoul Powell says, and I really found this chart interesting because honestly speaking, I didn't really take a look at this chart. When he brought this up, it kind of, makes me wonder, quite interesting. What I mean by that is kind of look at, the M2 supply, global M2, so M2 money supply, and, Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is in pink, and the M2, money supply is, of course, in black. And as you're seeing this chart, the black one climbing, you do tend to see a positive correlation with BTC. You can see this for yourself. So obviously M2 supply is, going up. So now the question is, are we going to see Bitcoin really, keeping up with this trend? Are we going to see that happening? Is that really going to be the case? Is Bitcoin about to make its way towards the upside, up towards all-time highs? Let's see. So far, pretty much over the course of the last, I would say, in this specific chart over the last 2 years, you're starting to see, a positive correlation. So if the correlation were to play out, you would expect Bitcoin to start heading back, towards the upside as well. So again, that is something quite interesting to, kind of look into. Of course, historically speaking, I've been quite clear upon this. We might see choppy levels, I said, in the next few months. Obviously, trade, talks really did have that impact. Pretty much since February, we have been quite bearish. But the fact of the matter is that quarter four is, and sometime late quarter three is to be expected to be bullish, historically speaking. And of course, if you do see a complete shift in terms of IPOs, in terms of obviously ETFs being approved, the likes of BlackRock, Fidelity coming on board, I think that just changes the game. So again, very, very interesting things to note. But let's take a look at what's happening with the price. So if you're looking at the Bitcoin dominance here, guys, dominance is still quite high, 63.45%. Obviously, we saw the dominance going down to 63.16% a few hours ago, but it has picked up quite fast. If you're looking at BTC, of course, it did go into the 38.2 as mentioned in my update, just not too long ago, but we did pull down a little bit. But in the grand scheme of things, we are being supported by, this 81 to 82K range. With that said, if you're looking at XRP, $2 as of now. So, a very, very similar price pattern, with Bitcoin. You can see this for yourself, right? Even the Fibonacci retracement levels are matching right at the neckline. You guys can see this for yourself, 38.2 retest, rejection. You can see this for yourself as well for XRP, 38.2 retest at 208 cents. $2.08 to be, if you were to round it up, $2.09. But anyhow, you retested, got a rejection, we're pulling back down, and obviously we do have significant amount of support around this range. So very, very interesting times that you are in. Of course, when you do see an explosive move like this, for the third largest asset in the crypto space, a little bit of a correction is needed, especially when the king of the market is seeing a correction. So obviously we need to keep these factors in mind, but in the grand scheme of things, very, very impressive stuff, pretty much back almost to this long accumulation pattern that we've been in, which a lot of people are calling boring, but I've been indicating that this is a good sign, especially the fact that we're back above this key resistance. Very, very nice to see, of course, as of now. Let me know down below what you guys think. What are your personal predictions as to what you are thinking in terms of XRP in the short horizon? Do you think we're out of the woods, or do you think this is just a complete manipulation, and we are going to make our way back towards the downside? Let me know in the comments down below what your personal thoughts are. We'll see you later in Crypto ZX, and peace out.